with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God.
That sound clip found on the Vincent Boyce Library of Michigan State University was an excerpt of FDR's famous "The Day We Will Live in Infamy" speech, delivered on December 8, 1941, one day after the attack of Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Although this speech was mainly addressed to Congress, it was FDR's infamous speech was widely known to the American public. FDR delivered many famous speeches such as the Four Freedom speeches, the Fireside Chats, and of course the infamous speech. As one of America's most critically acclaimed public speakers, such a speaker must be researched upon. First, we're going to tell you who he was. Second, we will be talking about the significance of his speeches towards the American public. And finally, we will be discussing our reasons for choosing the speaker and how he has influenced us. Let us begin by a brief introduction by Will.
FDR was the 32nd President of the United States, following Herbert Hoover, immediately inheriting the burden of dealing with the Great Depression. According to an article published by the National Park Service of America, FDR was born in 1882 in New York. FDR attended Harvard University, where he graduated in 1903. In 1 year following his graduation, then he attended Columbia University in 1903, but left the school due to a lack of interest. FDR proceeded to marry his fifth cousin, Eleanor Roosevelt, in 1905. In 1910, in the age of 29, FDR entered the world of politics as a New York State Senator. FDR was appointed as the Secretary of the Navy in 1913. On August of 1921, FDR fell into the Goldwater near New Brunswick in Canada. Chills he felt were misdiagnosed, and FDR was struck with polio, never to walk again. Polio did not stop FDR from continuing his political career. Following a massive battle in an attempt to walk again with the use of exercise, leg braces, and crutches, FDR re-entered politics as a New York governor in 1928. In November 1932, FDR was elected the 32nd President of the United States. On December of 1941, following the attack of Pearl Harbor, FDR directed the nation towards a global war. FDR served a total 4 terms before dying on April of 1945 from a brain hemorrhage. Now, I'm going to take you over to Stephanie, who is going to be discussing about the significance of his speeches.
FDR was an important orator in history. His various speeches held sway over the American public for many reasons. The first being his presidency. Naturally, any speech a president gives is going to be remembered and criticized. The thing is, FDR was good at being president. It came naturally to him. As William E. Lochtenberg observed in his essay, The FDR Years, he had acquired an admirable political education, state senator, junior cabinet officer, his party's vice presidential nominee, and 2-term governor of the largest state of the Union. The station of being president was almost his by birthright, and he was extremely comfortable with this. Also, because he had familiarized himself with the American people and come to them on their own level in his fireside chats, he earned their respect and their attention. Roosevelt's evening radio addresses helped worried citizens stay informed and involved with all matters political. He was the first president ever to attempt such a close connection to the American public by way of mass media. Another reason why FDR's speeches were so important was the time and the circumstances in which he gave them. Roosevelt assumed presidency at the depth of the Great Depression. He brought hope as he promised prompt, vigorous action to a people who were in a state of stasis and despair. Though he already had enough to deal on his plate with trying to pull up a nation and economy up from the ground, he soon had even more to contend with. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, Roosevelt delivered to Congress what is probably the best-known persuasive speech ever given. His radical calls to movement and unprecedented ideas with the New Deal helped to jumpstart a nation that was drowning in crisis. Lastly, part of what made FDR's speeches so significant was his relation to the press. As Jean Smith observes in her article of the 100 Days blog of the New York Times, the present tradition of holding the press at arm's length dates back to the Eisenhower administration. All subsequent presidents have followed the Eisenhower and Haggerty model. But there's a problem. It creates an adversarial relationship. The president on one side of the podium and the press on the other. Franklin Roosevelt, however, adopted a hands-on approach. FDR would bring in the press, sit them down around his desk in the Oval Office with coffee and donuts, and speak to them on their level. Correspondents could ask any question they wished, without having to submit it in writing first, and the president answered them clear and concisely. When he refrained from answering the question, he did so frankly and without hedging. The goodwill he developed with the press by doing this extended so far that the media even honored Roosevelt's wish to not be photographed in his wheelchair, something that is quite unthinkable today. This gentlemanly respect earned people's trust, and he was able to express himself as sincerely as he wanted and could. Now, Walter is going to discuss why FDR was such an accomplished speaker and why we chose him as our subject.
Franklin Roosevelt's speeches seem to be always clear and concise. From his inaugural speech to his infamy speech to his fireside chats, FDR doesn't seem to drift away from his main topic. If FDR were evaluated on speech delivery, his strengths of his speaking skills would include the ability to provoke thought into the audience, the ability to answer questions clarity, professionalism, phrase repetition, control, concluding statements, and to the point speech delivery.